is basically the return line, or line 8 at this point. 1 plus 0 is 1. In other words, on line 8 here, I am effectively just returning a value of 1. But I'm executing line 8 in the context of column F and column G, which means the return info cell I have to replace is this one here. I copy and paste it. I change the question mark to a 1 because I'm returning a value of 1 in this case. In other words, I execute the statement of H22 in the context of column F and column G, and as a result, the return info cell becomes like this. And once again, do not let it bother you that the return info cell is stating something on line 8 when we are executing line 8. Your only job as a return statement is to replace the question mark with a value. The rest, you don't care. Okay? After line 8, there's nothing else in this conditional statement. We get to the end of the subroutine on line 10. Oops, I forgot one thing. Are we done with line 8 yet? Yes, we are. Okay, we are done with this line 8. So now we go to line 10. And line 10 is the end of this subroutine. We deallocate the columns that we have allocated earlier. OEM. And then where do we go? According to the return info cell, where are we supposed to go? We're supposed to go back to line 8, and line 8 now looks like what? It looks like F24. But it is going to be executed in the context of column D and column E. I just need to scroll things around a little bit so we can see what it looks like at that point. Okay? So we are now executing the statement in F24, but in the context of column D and column E. I'm executing return 1 plus invoke F, blah, blah, blah. So that means I have to invoke F again at this point. Invoking F will require a return info cell, or return info column, as well as one column for n. Right? What is n in this case? We are executing this statement. The left-hand side spells out n minus 2. But this n refers to column E. Column E has a value of 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. So that's why the new parameter n, or column G, starts with a value of 1. Are we doing okay? Okay. What do we do with the return info? We spell out basically the same line, return 1 plus the invocation. But the invocation is replaced by a single question mark. Once we set up these two columns, we can continue on to line 3. Line 3 checks, does n equal to 0? No, n equals to 1 in this case, so n equals to 0 is false. We move on to line 5. N equals to 1 is true, because n does equal to 1 at this point. So we go to line 6, we execute the statement return 1. Return 1 is just blindly going to copy the return info cell and replace the question mark with a value of 1. After line 5, I'm done with the conditional statement. We go all the way out to line 10. Oh yes, you're right. Okay, I forgot about that. So this should go here on line 6. Thank you. Very good. After line 6, we don't have anything else to do in the conditional statement. We end up on line 10. Line 10 is going to deallocate the columns that we have allocated for this invocation. And then where do we go next? We go back to line 8. Okay, the return info cell tells me where to go. We're supposed to go back to line 8, and this time line 8 looks like return 1 plus 1. Even though originally it has 2 invokes, both of those invocations have now been resolved to single values. And now it is just returning 1 plus 1, which is 2. So effectively, we are executing return 2 in the context of column D and column E. Return 2 on line 8 is just going to replace the question mark of the return info cell with a value of 2. And we are done with line 8. After line 8, we are done with the conditional statement. We go all the way out to line 10, and then we deallocate the 2 columns that we allocated for this invocation. According to this, we are supposed to go back to line 12, okay, because the return info cell tells me where to go to. And in this case, it also tells me what else I have to do on that line, which is just printing the value of 2. After line 12, we go to line 13. Line 13 is the end of the main subroutine, which means I have to use the return line number to go back to post. And also remember to deallocate column C before we continue on to post. That's the end of this trace. Okay. Now, I don't think I will give you guys a question like this in the final exam, so don't worry that you have to deal with the tedium of this type of pseudocode. But what you should do is fully understand the mechanism of returning a value using this as an example. Okay, because that is the whole purpose of using this sample program. Is it is confusing, it is a little bit long, it's a little bit tedious, but it is a good exercise. Okay, so if I go, I just want to zoom out so you can see what it looks like, the entire thing. Just look at the shape of this thing. Okay, now this is already something that is worth noting, because you can see the consumption or the columns or the cells that are in use gradually goes out here. It stays like this, it kind of goes back like this, and it goes back some more. In other words, we don't do something like this. Okay, I have seen traces where the shape looks like this. It keeps going all the way out until the end of the execution of the program. Then everything is deallocated. It does not work out that way. I have also seen programs or traces that basically forget to deallocate. And sometimes, so it would go out like this, it would kind of go back straight like this, and then it would use some columns again and go straight back. That is not supposed to happen either. You should see a fairly general pattern of allocating and deallocating. So when it's deallocating, it would deallocate like this, and it will reallocate, deallocate, deallocate back to the beginning. So the shape of the trace, how you use the columns, should give you an idea of whether it is done correctly or not in the case of a recursion. Are there any questions about this trace? Any specific row of the trace that you want me to go over? Yep.
Once again, we are printing 32. We are printing 2 because of the return 1 plus 1?
Correct. And I'm trying to find out where's my comments column. It doesn't.
Pulled it over.
Yeah, pull it over. You start to see.
It's up to us.
Not that way.
You have to pull it back.
Yeah, but I can't.
Like when you split the screen.
Go over there, man. Or just turn off that one on the other side.
No, that's just the.
All the way to the cells. Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can just use the cursor. Even the cursor key won't let me go back.
There's not a cell gap right between the numbers and the
Uh-oh. Ah. There we go. There we go. I think I pressed the wrong key. I hit those columns instead of scrolling it off the screen. So now it's all good again. So on row 34 of the trace, we actually print the value of 2. Are there any questions about how to use the return statement?
Can you go to the very top?
Any questions about that? Now the point is, the most important point is, I really have not changed the way the return mechanism works. From the very first sample program all the way up to here, we haven't changed the mechanisms at all. Okay. In other words, this is complicated, a little bit lengthy, but nonetheless using exactly the same concept that we have introduced, since the very first program. Printing, returning 7 and returning 5. It's really the same thing, except I'm combining the concepts in a way that makes it a little bit difficult to understand. Any questions about this? Yep.
You said you want to give us an exam on the final. Is it going to be on next exam?
No, it will be. The concept of returning a value will be in the final. I just won't give you something like this complicated. Something like a recursion, like factorial, that's definitely within the range of questions that I can ask. This one is different from factorial because on the same line, if you look at the source code of this, what makes this one worse than recursion, worse than factorial, is on this line here, we have 2 invocations that are recursive on the same line of the return. Whereas with factorial, there's only 1. Okay, so that's why this one is more tedious and takes longer to trace, is because of the number of invocations that I have to deal with.
Do you have any exams before final?
Nope, there are no exams before the final exam, and the final exam is worth 40% of your final grade. So that's yep, well, but you guys know that from day 1 already. That's nothing new. Yep.
Is the final just going to be the material since the rest, or is it going to be?
It's comprehensive. There will be like a minor portion of pre and post conditions, just so that I know that you guys still remember what it is about. But the focus is no longer on pre and post conditions. It will be more on subroutines, passing by value, passing by reference, and also returning values.
That's bad. That's bad.
Well, if that is bad, cisp300 is worse. Yep. So, okay, let's go back and take a look at the syllabus. Because apparently some of us have not have forgotten about the syllabus.
Did you save that last one?
Did you
Save that last one you just did?
Oh, the last file? It is still untitled, so let's save it. Where's
You're under edit.
save to today's folder, and we'll call it by its name, Fibonacci. I think it's a single N.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I was just saying there's no return till line 16. It's just,
No return till row 60.
no, well, you didn't actually return anything till there, right? Once something came through.
Right.
Return a value.
Yep, that's the end of the recursion. It's called a base case. Yep. With any type of recursive subroutine, you need a way to stop it from calling itself. So that's why you always put those conditions ahead of everything else. You always check, am I